On Labor Day weekend, September 1st, 2024, my son Deshaun Carter drove me to a rest stop on Highway 85 in the Colorado mountains, looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Mama, we think it's better if you find your own way back to Phoenix." Then he drove away with my grandchildren in the back seat, leaving me standing there with nothing but my purse and one bar of cell service. I'm Gloria Jean Carter. I'm 68 years old, and I want to tell you my story. If you're listening from somewhere far away, drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this has traveled. And please, stay with me until the end. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, "Gloria, what kind of son abandons his own mama on a highway?" Well, that's exactly what I thought too. But here's what my son didn't know when he left me standing in that parking lot with the mountain wind cutting through my thin cardigan. I wasn't just some helpless old widow he could discard like yesterday's newspaper. I was the woman who had documentation of every dollar I'd loaned him. I was the woman who had a lawyer on speed dial. And most importantly, I was the woman who still had 6 days left before the 72-hour deadline I'd given him to repay $65,000. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning, because this story doesn't start on that highway. It starts 6 months earlier, on a Tuesday afternoon in March, when my phone rang and my whole world shifted on its axis. March 19th, 2024, 3:15 in the afternoon. I remember the exact time because I was sitting in my apartment at Sonoran Sunset Retirement Community in Phoenix, Arizona, apartment number 212, watching my stories and folding laundry. The afternoon sun was coming through my window just right, warming my arms while I worked. I had just folded my favorite church blouse, the lavender one with the pearl buttons that my late husband Leonard bought me for our 30th anniversary, when my phone rang. The caller ID said Deshaun Mobile. My heart did what every mother's heart does when her child calls unexpectedly on a Tuesday afternoon. It jumped a little, not from fear exactly, but from that maternal instinct that never quite goes away, even when your baby is 43 years old with 2 children of his own. "Hey, baby," I answered, setting down the blouse carefully so it wouldn't wrinkle. What I heard on the other end made my hands go still. Deshaun was crying. Now you have to understand something about my son. Deshaun Marcus Carter is not a crier. Even as a boy, he was tough. Had to be, growing up without his father around much. His daddy and I divorced when Deshaun was 7, and I raised that boy mostly on my own while working double shifts as a nurse at Phoenix General Hospital. Deshaun learned early to hold things in, to be the man of the house, to not show weakness. So when I heard my grown son's voice crack on the phone, I sat up straight and pressed that phone to my ear like my life depended on it. "Mama," he said, and his voice was thick with tears. "Mama, we're in trouble. Real trouble this time." "What's wrong, baby? Is everyone okay? Are Aaliyah and Isaiah hurt?" No, everyone's fine physically. It's just, Mama, I don't know how to tell you this." I waited. I've learned over 68 years that sometimes the best thing you can do is just wait and let people find their words. "Vanessa lost her job," he finally said. 3 months ago. We've been trying to hold it together, but we're behind on the mortgage. 4 months behind, Mama. The bank sent us a notice. We could lose the house." My stomach dropped. I thought about my grandbabies, Aaliyah, 12 years old and sweet as honey, and Isaiah, 8 years old with his daddy's smile. I thought about them losing their home, their rooms, their stability. "How much?" I asked, already doing calculations in my head. "How much what?" "How much do you need to save the house?" There was a pause. A long one. Then, $65,000. I felt the number hit me like a physical weight. $65,000. That was more than half of the life insurance money I'd received when Leonard passed away 4 years ago. That was money I'd been saving for emergencies, for medical bills, for the future I didn't know I had left. But then I heard Deshaun's voice, smaller now, younger somehow. "Mama, I hate asking you this. You know I wouldn't if we had anywhere else to turn. But Vanessa's parents can't help. They're struggling themselves. The church already helped us with 2 months of utilities. You're the only person we can turn to. Please, Mama. The kids would be devastated if we had to move again." And there it was, the thing that got me every time. My grandchildren. I closed my eyes and saw Aaliyah's face the last time I'd visited 8 months ago. She'd shown me her art portfolio, every drawing carefully preserved in plastic sleeves. When I grow up, she'd told me, I want to be an artist like Grandma Faith. That was Leonard's mother, God rest her soul, who used to paint the most beautiful landscapes. I saw Isaiah's gap-toothed grin when he'd scored his first goal in youth soccer. Did you see that, Grandma Gloria? Did you see? Don't worry, sweetheart, I heard myself say. Family takes care of family. We'll figure this out. The relief in Deshawn's voice was palpable. Mama, thank you. Thank you so much. I promise we'll pay you back. As soon as Vanessa finds work, we'll start paying you back. I know you will, baby. I know you will. After I hung up, I sat there in my quiet apartment for a long time, holding that lavender blouse against my chest. Outside my window, I could hear the sounds of the retirement community. Mrs. Henderson's television too loud, Mr. Washington whistling as he walked his dog, the distant splash of someone in the pool. I thought about Leonard, about how he would have handled this. Leonard had been a good man, a hard-working man, but he'd also been a trusting man. Too trusting sometimes. He'd loaned money to friends who never paid him back. He'd co-signed loans for family members who defaulted. He'd believed the best in people, even when they showed him their worst. I'd loved that about him, but I'd also seen how it cost us. So that evening I made 2 phone calls. The first was to my sister, Patricia Ann Johnson. Everyone calls her Patty. She's 65, 3 years younger than me, and she runs a successful catering business in Denver called Patty's Kitchen. Patty never married, never had kids, and always told me I was too soft when it came to family. Gloria, she said when I told her about Deshawn's call, please tell me you're not just wiring him $65,000 without protection. That's why I'm calling you, I said. You know business. What should I do? Get a lawyer. Get it in writing. Get collateral. Gloria, I love my nephew, but $65,000? That's not pocket change. You need to protect yourself. The second call was to Margaret Ann Sullivan, a black woman lawyer in Phoenix who went to my church, Mount Zion African Methodist Episcopal. Margaret was 53, sharp as a tack, and had a reputation for not suffering fools. Gloria, she said after I explained the situation, I've seen this story before. I've seen it too many times. Are you sure you want to do this? He's my son, Margaret. I know, and that's exactly why you need to protect yourself. The people who hurt us the most are usually the people we love the most. 5 days later, on March 24th, 2024, I sat in Margaret's office at 312 North Central Avenue, Suite 407, with my checkbook and my reading glasses and a pit in my stomach. Margaret's office was small but professional, law books lining the walls, her diplomas from Howard University and Arizona State University Law School hung in matching frames, a photo of her with her husband and 3 kids on the desk. She slid a document across the mahogany desk toward me. This is a promissory note, she explained, pointing to the heading. It states that you, Gloria Jean Carter, are lending $65,000 to Deshawn Marcus Carter. The loan term is 2 years, with interest at 3% annually. Payments of $2,853.75 are due monthly, beginning May 1st, 2024. I nodded, following along with my finger. Now here's the important part. Margaret flipped to page 2. This creates a lien on the property at 847 Pinewood Drive, Thornfield, Colorado, 80023. That's Deshawn's house. If he defaults on the loan, meaning if he misses payments or refuses to repay, you have the legal right to force the sale of that property to recover your money. Do you understand? Yes. Gloria, I need you to really understand. If this goes bad, you have legal recourse, but it will also mean potentially taking your son's house. I met her eyes. Margaret had kind eyes, but they were also eyes that had seen too much. Too many families torn apart by money. Too many elders taken advantage of by their own children. Margaret, I said quietly, Leonard and I worked for 42 years to build what we had. He died of pancreatic cancer 4 years ago next month, and every day I miss him so much I can barely breathe. That insurance money is all I have left of the security he tried to provide for me. If I'm going to risk it, I'm going to be smart about it. That's what Leonard would want. She nodded slowly. Okay, let's do this right. When Deshawn arrived at Margaret's office 30 minutes later, I could see the surprise on his face. He was wearing his work clothes, khaki pants and a button-down shirt with Carter embroidered on the pocket. He worked as a regional manager for a commercial plumbing supply company, making $78,000 a year. Good money, stable money, or so I thought. Mama, what's all this? He asked, looking at the paperwork spread across Margaret's desk. This is me protecting both of us, I said. Deshawn, I love you, but this is a lot of money, and I need to make sure everything is documented properly. His wife, Vanessa Michelle Carter, born Vanessa Michelle Porter, wasn't with him. She's home with the kids, Deshawn explained quickly. Too quickly. Margaret walked him through the loan agreement, page by page, line by line. I watched my son's face as she spoke. He looked uncomfortable. His jaw was tight. His fingers drummed on the armrest of his chair. Deshawn, Margaret said, her voice firm but not unkind. Do you have any questions about these terms? No, ma'am. Do you understand that this creates a lien on your property? Yes, ma'am. And you agree to make monthly payments beginning May 1st? Yes, ma'am. He turned to me. Mama, I promise. We're going to pay you back as soon as Vanessa finds work. She's already got some leads. This is just temporary. I wanted to believe him. God, how I wanted to believe him. He signed on line 27. I signed on line 31. Margaret notarized it with her official seal, and just like that, $65,000 moved from my account to Deshawn's. As we left the office building, Deshawn gave me a hug. Mama, you're a lifesaver. You really are. The kids are going to be so relieved. Just take care of your family, baby, I said. That's all I want. I watched him drive away in his 2019 Ford F-150, navy blue with chrome accents. A nice truck, an expensive truck. Margaret stood beside me on the sidewalk. Gloria, I hope I'm wrong, she said quietly. I really do. But keep those papers somewhere safe, and watch for the payment on May 1st. I will. But as I drove home to my apartment at Sonoran Sunset, something nagged at me. Something small but insistent, like a pebble in your shoe that you keep meaning to remove but never quite do. Vanessa hadn't come to sign the papers. Vanessa, who always came to family events, who was always so involved in decisions, who had opinions about everything. She hadn't shown up for the signing of a $65,000 loan. I told myself she was busy with the kids. I told myself it didn't mean anything. I should have listened to that little voice. I should have paid attention to that pebble. May 1st came and went. No payment. I waited until May 5th before I called Deshawn. Hey baby, just checking in. I know you're probably just setting up the automatic payment, but I wanted to make sure everything was okay. Oh, Mama, yeah, I'm sorry. It's been crazy at work. I'll get that set up this week. Okay, sweetheart, no rush. Just wanted to check. May 15th, still no payment. This time when I called, Deshawn's voice had an edge to it. Mama, I said I'd handle it. Things are just tight right now. Vanessa's still job hunting and we had some unexpected expenses with Isaiah's school. What kind of expenses? Just, school stuff, supplies, a field trip. It adds up. It was the first time in my life that my son had been short with me about money. The first time he'd made me feel like I was nagging him. I didn't call again in May. In June, the calls from Deshawn became less frequent. Where we used to talk every Sunday afternoon, our standing tradition, now it was every other week, then every 3 weeks. And when we did talk, the conversations felt managed, scripted. How's Aaliyah doing in school? Great, Mama, really great. And Isaiah's soccer? Good, he scored 2 goals last week. That's wonderful. I'd love to come visit and see a game. Oh well, the season's almost over. Maybe next time. What about Vanessa? Any luck with the job search? She's got some good prospects. Nothing definite yet. Every answer was just long enough to satisfy the question, but not long enough to invite follow-up. Every conversation ended with Deshawn suddenly having to go. Dinner was ready, or Vanessa was calling him, or there was something urgent at work. By July, I realized I hadn't spoken to my grandchildren in almost 2 months, not even on FaceTime. That's when I started paying attention to social media. Now I'm not on Facebook much myself, just have an account to see pictures of the grandkids and keep up with church friends. But Vanessa was active, very active. And what I saw made that pebble in my shoe start to feel like a boulder. July 8th, a photo of Vanessa at some trendy restaurant, something called the Capitol Grill. The caption read, Date night with my handsome hubby. Life is good. #blessed, #date night. I looked up the Capitol Grill. Entrees started at $48. July 19th, a photo of a designer handbag. Michael Kors from what I could tell. Caption, treating myself because I deserve it. Hashtag self-care, hashtag new bag. I looked up Michael Kors bags. They started at $300 and went up to over $1,000. July 27th, a family photo at what looked like a high-end shopping mall. Aaliyah and Isaiah were both wearing new clothes. The tags were still visible in the photo if you looked closely. Caption, back to school shopping done. My babies are going to look so sharp. Hashtag proud mama, hashtag back to school. I stared at that photo for a long time. At my grandchildren's new clothes. At the shopping bags visible in the corner of the frame. At Vanessa's perfectly styled hair and fresh manicure. This was not the family of someone who had lost their job and was struggling to make ends meet. This was not the family of someone who owed me $65,000 and hadn't made a single payment. On August 4th, I called Deshaun. He didn't answer. I called again 3 hours later. Voicemail. I called the next day. Voicemail. Finally, on August 7th, he called me back. Hey, Mama. Sorry I missed your calls. It's been crazy busy. Deshaun, I need to talk to you about the loan. Silence. Baby, it's been more than 3 months and I haven't received a single payment. Not $1. Mama, I told you things were tight. But your Facebook? Vanessa's posting pictures of expensive restaurants and shopping trips and… Mama, his voice was cold now. Really cold. I don't appreciate you monitoring our social media. That's invasive. I felt like I'd been slapped. Invasive? Deshaun, I loaned you $65,000. I have a right to… You have a right to nothing, Mama. We're grateful for your help, but that doesn't give you the right to police how we spend our money or question our decisions. But baby, I have to go. Vanessa needs me. He hung up. I sat there in my apartment, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the silence where my son's voice had been. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, kept hearing that coldness in his voice. You have a right to nothing, Mama. At 2 a.m, I got out of bed, made myself a cup of chamomile tea, and did something I hadn't done in years. I prayed. Really prayed. Not the quick blessing before meals or the rote prayers at church, but a deep, on-my-knees, desperate conversation with God. Lord, I whispered into the darkness of my living room, I don't know what's happening. I don't know if I'm overreacting or if something is really wrong, but I need wisdom. I need to see clearly. I need to understand what's true. And sitting there in the quiet, with just the hum of my refrigerator and the distant sound of someone's air conditioning unit, something became crystal clear. I needed to see for myself. Gloria's voice, steady and measured. Now, before I tell you what I found when I went to Colorado, I want you to understand something. I didn't go there angry. I didn't go there looking for a fight. I went there as a mother who loved her son and as a grandmother who needed to see her grandchildren's faces again. But what I discovered changed everything. And if you're still with me, if you're listening, stay right here. Because what happened next, what I found in that house, what I saw with my own eyes, that's when I knew my son hadn't just forgotten about the loan. He had never intended to pay me back at all. On August 15th, 2024, at 6:43 in the morning, I boarded Southwest Airlines flight number 1729 from Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport to Denver International Airport. I hadn't told Deshaun I was coming. I hadn't asked permission. I'd simply booked the ticket on my laptop at midnight 2 days earlier, sitting in my apartment with a cup of coffee that had gone cold while I clicked purchase. The flight cost me $237.50. The rental car, a white Toyota Corolla from Enterprise, cost me another $49 per day. I'd booked it for 3 days, though I didn't know if I'd need that long. All I knew was that I needed to see my grandchildren. I needed to look my son in the eyes. And I needed to see this house that was apparently worth so much that he couldn't spare a single payment on the loan that had saved it. The drive from Denver Airport to Thornfield took 1 hour and 14 minutes. I know because I watched every minute tick by on the rental car's dashboard clock, my hands gripping the steering wheel tighter and tighter as I got closer. 847 Pinewood Drive. I'd had the address memorized for months. It was on the loan documents, the promissory note, the lien paperwork. But seeing it in person was different. The house was beautiful. I'm not going to lie to you. It was the kind of house that made you stop and stare. 2 stories, brick front, professionally landscaped yard with those perfect flower beds that someone was clearly maintaining weekly. The grass was so green it almost looked fake, cut in those diagonal stripes that only come from expensive lawn service. And in the driveway, gleaming in the morning sun, was a Tesla. Not Deshaun's Ford F-150 that I'd seen him driving 6 months ago. A Tesla Model Y, midnight blue, with the fancy rims and the autopilot cameras visible on the bumper. I sat in my rental car across the street for 10 minutes, just staring. I looked up Tesla Model Y prices on my phone. Starting price, $54,990. Used ones, if you were lucky, might go for $45,000. This was not the car of a family struggling to make mortgage payments. This was not the driveway of people who couldn't afford to pay me $2,853 a month. I got out of the car and walked up the driveway on legs that felt shaky. The front door was painted a deep burgundy with a wreath made of real eucalyptus branches. There was a doorbell camera, one of those Ring cameras that record everything. I could see the little red light blinking at me. I rang the doorbell. Through the frosted glass panels beside the door, I could see movement. Then the door swung open, and there was Deshaun. His face went white, completely white, like someone had drained all the blood out of it. "Mama, what are you doing here?" "I came to see my grandchildren," I said, keeping my voice steady. "And to see you. May I come in?" He stood there for a moment, frozen. Then he glanced over his shoulder, quick, nervous, before stepping aside. "Of course, it's just... we weren't expecting anyone." The inside of the house was even more impressive than the outside. Hardwood floors that gleamed. A living room to the left with a sectional sofa that looked brand new, one of those big leather ones that cost thousands of dollars. A 75-inch television mounted on the wall. I could see the price sticker still on the edge if you looked close enough. $3,299 from Best Buy. "Vanessa?" Deshaun called out, his voice tight. "We have a visitor." Vanessa appeared from the kitchen, and I got my second shock of the morning. She looked incredible. Hair freshly done, not done at home, but done at a salon with those perfect highlights that cost $200 minimum. Her nails were manicured with some kind of French tips and little gems on them. She was wearing Lululemon, I recognized the logo from the commercials, and holding a crystal vase full of fresh flowers. Not grocery store flowers. These were the expensive kind from a real florist, the kind with roses and lilies and those fancy filler flowers whose names I don't know. "Gloria," she said, and her smile was bright but didn't reach her eyes. "What a surprise. We didn't know you were coming to town." "I wanted to see the children," I said. "Where are Aaliyah and Isaiah?" Deshaun and Vanessa exchanged a look. It was quick, less than a second, but I saw it. "They're at birthday parties," Deshaun said. "Both of them. Different parties. They'll be sorry they missed you." "Both kids at birthday parties? On the same Saturday morning?" "It's a busy weekend," Vanessa said smoothly, setting down the vase on what looked like a marble entry table. "You know how it is with kids this age. Their social calendars are packed." I looked around the room, really looked. Everything was expensive. Everything was new. The throw pillows on the couch were Williams-Sonoma. I could see the tags tucked into the corners. There was an espresso machine on the counter in the kitchen, the fancy one that cost $495 because I'd priced it once for myself and decided it was too extravagant. "Your home is beautiful," I said. "Thank you." Vanessa's smile tightened. "We've been working hard on it." "I can see that. New furniture?" "Some of it. We've been making improvements." "And the Tesla outside? That's new too?" Deshaun shifted his weight. "Mama, my truck was having problems. We needed reliable transportation for the kids." "I see. Well, that makes sense." I sat down on their expensive couch, uninvited. "How's the job search going, Vanessa? Deshaun mentioned you'd had some promising leads." Vanessa's perfectly made-up face didn't change expression, but something flickered in her eyes. "Still looking? The market is tough right now." "I bet. But you're managing okay financially?" "We're getting by," Deshaun said quickly. "It's tight, but we're managing." "Tight enough that you haven't been able to make a single payment on the $65,000 loan?" The temperature in the room dropped about 20 degrees. "Mama," Deshaun said, his voice taking on that edge I'd heard on the phone, "we said we'd pay you back when we could. We're doing our best." "Are you?" I looked at the television, at the furniture, at Vanessa's salon-fresh hair. "Because from where I'm sitting, it doesn't look like you're struggling." Vanessa set down her coffee cup, From Starbucks, I noticed, not made at home, with a little more force than necessary. Gloria, I don't appreciate the implication. We're managing our finances the best way we know how. Just because we can't pay you back immediately doesn't mean we're living extravagantly. A $55,000 car isn't extravagant? That was a necessary purchase, Deshawn said. And frankly, Mama, it's none of your business how we spend our money. There it was again. That phrase, none of your business. I stood up. You're right. It's not my business how you spend your money, but it is my business how you spend mine. And $65,000 of mine seems to have gone toward a lot of things that aren't mortgage payments. I think you should go, Vanessa said coldly. I think I should too. I walked toward the door, then turned back. When the children get home from their birthday parties, please tell them Grandma Gloria loves them very much. And tell them I'm staying at the Holiday Inn on Maple Street if they want to call me. I left before either of them could respond. I didn't go to the Holiday Inn. That was a lie. A small one, but strategic. I didn't want them to know where I was staying. Instead, I drove to a Residence Inn about 15 minutes away and checked into room 203. For the next 3 days, I did something I never thought I'd do. I investigated my own son. It started with public records. You can find a lot online these days if you know where to look, and I spent 12 hours over 2 days learning where to look. Margaret had taught me some basics about property records and business filings, but I went deeper. Colorado allows you to search property records through the county assessor's website. So I searched. 847 Pinewood Drive was purchased on June 12, 2020 for $427,000. Current mortgage balance as of July 2024, $382,612. They weren't behind on their mortgage, not even a little bit. That was lie number 1. Then I searched employment records, the public ones you can access through LinkedIn and business databases. And there, on Vanessa Michelle Carter's LinkedIn profile updated just 3 weeks ago, Marketing Director at Pinnacle Solutions Group, Denver, Colorado, June 2024 to present. Not unemployed, not job searching, employed, as a director, a position that, according to Glassdoor, paid between $87,000 and $112,000 per year in Denver. That was lie number 2. I took screenshots of everything, every document, every profile, every post. My phone's photo gallery grew by the hour. Evidence, evidence, evidence. But I needed more. I needed to understand what was really happening. So on August 18th, I did something I'd never done before. I hired a private investigator. David Michael Harrison had an office in a strip mall in downtown Denver, between a nail salon and a tax preparation service. The sign on the door said Harrison Investigations, confidential services since 2008. He was 53 years old, white, with gray hair and kind eyes that had clearly seen too much. His office walls were covered with certifications and commendations from his 22 years with the Denver Police Department before he went private. "Mrs. Carter," he said, shaking my hand with a firm grip. "Please, sit down. Tell me what's going on." I told him everything. The loan, the lack of payments, the house, the Tesla, the lies about Vanessa's employment. He listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he set down his pen and looked at me with those kind, sad eyes. "Mrs. Carter, I'm going to be direct with you. Cases like this, adult children financially exploiting their parents, they usually leave extensive paper trails. People who do this kind of thing tend to be sloppy because they think they won't get caught. With your permission, I'd like to investigate their financial records, social media activity, and any other documentation I can legally access. But I need to warn you." "Warn me about what?" "Sometimes what we find isn't pretty. Sometimes it's worse than you imagined. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about Deshawn's cold voice on the phone. I thought about Vanessa's fake smile in that beautiful house. I thought about my grandchildren at birthday parties that probably didn't exist. "Mr. Harrison," I said quietly, "they abandoned me on a highway and are now using my grandchildren as weapons against me. I'm prepared for anything." He nodded slowly. "Okay, let's get started. I'll need copies of all the documents you have, the loan agreement, any communications, everything. And Mrs. Carter?" "Yes?" "This will cost about $175 per hour, plus expenses. A thorough investigation could run you $3,000 to $5,000. Can you afford that?" I thought about the $65,000 I'd never see again if I did nothing. Yes, I said. I can afford it. 2 days later, David Harrison called me. Mrs. Carter, can you come to my office today if possible? What I've found is extensive. I sat across from David Harrison's cluttered desk at 2:15 on August 20th, 2024, and watched him arrange documents in front of me like he was building a case for prosecution, which I would learn he essentially was. Mrs. Carter, he began, pulling out the first document. Let's start with Vanessa's employment. You were right, she never lost her job, but it's actually worse than that. He slid a printed email across the desk. It was from Pinnacle Solutions Group's HR department, dated February 14th, 2024. This is Vanessa's promotion letter. She wasn't fired in February or March. She was promoted from senior marketing manager to marketing director. Her salary increased from $72,500 to $95,000 per year, effective February 15th. I stared at the numbers. So when Deshaun called me on March 19th to say Vanessa had lost her job 3 months earlier, he was lying. Vanessa not only had a job, she'd just gotten a raise, a significant one. David pulled out another document. Now here's where it gets interesting. I pulled their credit card statements. How did you? I have sources, legal sources. These are tied to public records through their business accounts. Look at this. He showed me a statement from Chase Sapphire Reserve, dated July 2024. The purchases made my stomach turn. July 8th, the Capitol Grill, $347. 82 July 12th, Best Buy, $3,299, the television I'd seen. July 15th, Nordstrom, $892.44. July 19th, Michael Kors at Cherry Creek Mall, $1,247. July 23rd, Tesla of Denver, down payment, $19,500. $19,500, I whispered, for a down payment. Right around the time he should have been making his third loan payment to you, David said grimly. But Mrs. Carter, we need to talk about something else, something more serious. He pulled out a thick folder and opened it slowly. I've been doing this work for a long time, and when I see certain patterns, certain behaviors, I start digging deeper. So I did some research into Deshaun's financial history. Credit reports, bank records, transaction patterns. He slid over a series of bank statements marked with yellow highlighter. Mrs. Carter, your son has a gambling problem, a serious one. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. What? These are statements from his personal checking account. Look at these transactions. He pointed to line after line. March 3rd, 2024, DraftKings, $500. March 5th, 2024. FanDuel, $1,200, March 8th, 2024. BetMGM, $800, March 15th, 2024. DraftKings, $2,100, on and on page after page. Hundreds of transactions to online gambling sites. Based on his bank records over the past 18 months, I estimate Deshaun has lost approximately $97,000 gambling on sports betting. $97,000. The $65,000 you loaned him didn't go to save his house, Mrs. Carter. It went to pay off gambling debts. And based on what I'm seeing, he's still gambling. I couldn't breathe. I literally could not catch my breath. Mrs. Carter, are you okay? Do you need water? I shook my head, forcing air into my lungs. Keep going. What else? David hesitated, then pulled out more papers. This is where it gets even worse. I found evidence that this isn't the first time they've done this. He showed me a series of documents, loan applications, bank transfers, legal correspondence. 2 years ago, in July of 2022, Deshaun and Vanessa borrowed $32,000 from Vanessa's parents, James and Dorothy Porter. They live in Savannah, Georgia. The Porters are 71 and 73 years old, both retired. He was a Methodist minister. She was an elementary school teacher. My hands were shaking as I looked at the documents. The loan was supposedly for medical expenses for Isaiah, but Isaiah's medical records, which I accessed through public health insurance data, show no major medical issues, no hospitalizations, no expensive procedures. So they lied to Vanessa's parents too. Yes, and here's the thing, Mrs. Carter. When the Porters started asking questions about repayment after 6 months, Deshaun and Vanessa cut off all contact. The Porters haven't seen their grandchildren in 14 months. They've tried calling, emailing, even showing up at the house in Thornfield. Deshawn threatened to call the police if they didn't leave. I felt tears burning in my eyes. Those poor people. I spoke to Reverend Porter yesterday. He cried on the phone with me, said he'd worked for 43 years and saved every penny so they'd have something for retirement. That $32,000 was a third of their savings. David pulled out one more document, and I could tell by his face that this was the worst one. Mrs. Carter, I need to show you something from Vanessa's social media. She has a private Instagram account, or she thought it was private. The privacy settings weren't configured properly. He showed me printed screenshots and my vision blurred with rage. August 2nd, 2024, photo of the new living room furniture. Caption, kitchen renovation complete, when family loans you money but you never have to pay it back. Some people are so gullible. Hashtag free upgrade, hashtag blessed, hashtag suckerborn. August 9th, 2024, photo of Vanessa's new handbag. Caption, new designer bag. Thanks to Dee's generous mama love when family helps out. LOL, hashtag spoiled, hashtag living my best life, hashtag not your money. Suckerborn, I read aloud, my voice shaking. She called me a sucker. Mrs. Carter, she took my money, my dead husband's life insurance money, the money he worked himself to death to provide for me, and she bought a purse with it and called me a sucker on Instagram. David's voice was gentle. There's one more thing you need to see. He pulled out his phone and showed me screenshots of text messages. These are from a conversation between Vanessa and her sister, Jasmine Porter. They're from last week, August 12th. I read them, and my blood turned to ice. Vanessa, the old lady is getting suspicious. She showed up at the house. Jasmine, what did you do? Vanessa, played dumb, told her the kids were at birthday parties. Dee is freaking out. Jasmine, what if she wants her money back? Vanessa, then we do the highway thing. Bobby said it works every time. You scare them, make them feel helpless, and they shut up. Old people are easy to manipulate. Jasmine, that's cold, V. Vanessa, it's survival. She's got money she's never going to use. We need it now. Bobby says once we're done with her, there are other old people we can target. His system works. I read the messages 3 times, trying to make sense of them. Who is Bobby? I asked. David's face was grim. That, Mrs. Carter, is what we need to find out. Because based on these messages, your son and daughter-in-law aren't just scamming you. They're part of something bigger. David Harrison made 2 phone calls while I sat in his office trying to process everything I'd just learned. The first was to Phoenix Police Department, Financial Crimes Division. The second was to the FBI. Mrs. Carter, he said after hanging up, I need to be very clear about what I think is happening here. The phrase, Bobby said it works every time, and his system works, those suggest your son and daughter-in-law are involved in an organized operation. This isn't just family theft. This is potentially conspiracy to commit elder fraud. Elder fraud? Financial exploitation of elderly individuals. It's a federal crime, especially when it crosses state lines, which this does. You're in Arizona, they're in Colorado. The FBI has a task force specifically for this. My head was spinning. Deshawn is part of a criminal organization? I don't know yet, but I've seen this pattern before. There are networks that recruit family members to scam their elderly relatives. They provide scripts, strategies, even legal cover. The payoff is usually split. The family member keeps a percentage, and the organizers take the rest. How much do they keep? Usually around 40%. The organizers take 60%. I did the math in my head. $65,000. If Deshawn and Vanessa kept 40%, that was $26,000. The other $39,000 went to this Bobby person and his network. I want to know everything, I said. I want to know who Bobby is, how many other people they've hurt, all of it. Mrs. Carter, that's going to require getting the authorities involved. The FBI, probably the Colorado Attorney General's office. Once we do that, this becomes a criminal investigation. Your son could go to prison. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Aaliyah and Isaiah. I thought about Reverend and Mrs. Porter, crying over their lost savings and their lost grandchildren. I thought about that Instagram post. Suckerborn every minute. Yes, I said. I'm prepared for that. David nodded slowly. Okay, then here's what we're going to do. I have a contact at the FBI. An agent I worked with when I was still with Denver PD. Her name is Sarah Williams, and she specializes in elder fraud cases. I'm going to arrange a meeting. How long will that take? She can probably see us tomorrow, but Mrs. Carter, there's something else you need to know. What? The text messages mention the highway thing. That suggests they're planning something to intimidate you or silence you. You need to be very careful. Careful how? Don't go anywhere with them alone. Don't accept any invitations. His phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his face went pale. It's Deshaun. He's calling my office. How did he get your number? I don't know. David answered the call on speaker. Harrison Investigations. Deshaun's voice came through, tight and angry. This is Deshaun Carter. I know my mother hired you to investigate me. I want you to know that what you're doing is harassment, and I'm prepared to file a complaint with the state licensing board. David's voice stayed calm. Mr. Carter, I'm conducting a legal investigation on behalf of a client. Everything I'm doing is within the bounds of stay away from my family, stay away from my house, and tell my mother that if she continues down this path, she's going to regret it. The line went dead. David and I looked at each other. That, he said quietly, was a threat. You need to file a police report. He's my son. Mrs. Carter, he just threatened you. This isn't about family anymore. This is about protecting yourself. I sat there in that cluttered office, surrounded by evidence of my son's crimes, and made the hardest decision of my life. Okay, I said. Let's call the FBI. That night, back in my hotel room at the Residence Inn, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those text messages. The highway thing. What did that mean? At 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text message from a number I didn't recognize. Stop digging into things that don't concern you. Family business should stay family business. This is your only warning. I showed it to David the next morning. That's witness intimidation, he said. We're adding it to the file. At 2 p.m. on August 21st, I sat in a conference room at the FBI's Denver field office at 17th Street in Champa. Agent Sarah Michelle Williams was 36 years old, sharp as a knife, with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun and eyes that missed nothing. Mrs. Carter, she said, laying out David's file in front of her, I've reviewed the evidence your investigator gathered. What you've uncovered is consistent with a pattern we've been investigating for the past 8 months. What pattern? A network that specifically targets elderly individuals, particularly elderly Black and Hispanic individuals, for financial exploitation. The network operates across 4 states: Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. We've identified at least 19 victims so far, with total losses exceeding $1.3 million. $1.3 million. Your case, Agent Williams continued, has provided us with something we haven't had before. Direct evidence linking the victims to a coordinator. This Bobby person mentioned in the text messages. We believe that's Robert Thompson, age 57, operating out of Fort Collins, Colorado. She showed me a photo. A white man, well-dressed, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He looked like someone's grandfather. Thompson runs what he calls a family financial counseling service. What he actually runs is a sophisticated scam operation. He identifies elderly individuals with assets, recruits family members or close friends to gain access, provides them with scripts and strategies, and takes a cut of everything stolen. And Deshaun is working with him? We believe so. Mrs. Carter, I need to ask you something, and I need you to think very carefully before you answer. Okay? Did Deshaun recently invite you on any kind of trip? Any reason for you to be alone with him and his family, especially somewhere remote? My heart stopped. Yes, I whispered. He called me 3 days ago, Labor Day weekend, a family road trip to Colorado Springs. He said they wanted to reconnect as a family. Agent Williams and David exchanged a look. Don't go, Agent Williams said flatly. Mrs. Carter, the highway thing mentioned in those text messages, we think it's a tactic they use to intimidate victims. They take them somewhere remote, abandon them temporarily to scare them, then rescue them, and use the fear to manipulate them into giving up more money or dropping complaints. You think my son was going to abandon me on a highway? Mrs. Carter, Agent Williams said gently, your son has already stolen $65,000 from you, lied to your face repeatedly, threatened you through an intermediary, and is part of a criminal network. Yes, I think he would abandon you on a highway if it served his purpose." I felt something break inside me. Not my heart exactly, something deeper, something fundamental about who I thought my son was. "What do I do?" I asked, my voice small. "You go home to Phoenix. You stay away from Deshawn and Vanessa, and you let us build our case. With your evidence and testimony, we can bring down this entire network." "How long will that take?" "A few months, maybe. We need to coordinate with local authorities, gather more evidence, identify all the victims and operators." "And what about my money?" "If we can prove criminal conspiracy, asset forfeiture laws allow us to seize their property and return it to victims. You might get some of it back, maybe all of it. But Mrs. Carter, I need you to understand this process isn't fast and it isn't easy." I thought about Aaliyah and Isaiah, about never seeing them again, about Deshawn going to prison, about being the one who put him there. "Mrs. Carter," Agent Williams said gently, "are you okay?" I looked up at her, at David, at the files full of evidence of my son's crimes. "No," I said honestly, "I'm not okay, but I'm not going to be a victim anymore either." Gloria's voice steady despite the pain. "I flew back to Phoenix the next day, but Deshawn didn't know I'd talked to the FBI. He didn't know I had evidence. He didn't know that I knew about the highway plan. So when he called me on August 28th and asked again about that Labor Day trip, I did something that scared me more than anything I'd ever done. I said yes, because Agent Williams had asked me to. She said if I went on that trip with a wire, if I could get Deshawn and Vanessa to talk about their plans, we could catch them in the act. We could get everything on tape. So I packed my bag. I brought my homemade sweet potato pie. I acted like I didn't know anything. And I got in that car with my son, my daughter-in-law, and my grandchildren, knowing exactly what they were planning to do to me. And if you think you know how this story ends, stay with me. Because what happened on Highway 85 that day, what they didn't know about the wire I was wearing, about the FBI tracking my phone, about the choice I was about to make, that's where everything changed. September 1st, 2024, 6:47 in the morning. Deshawn's Ford F-150 pulled up in front of my apartment, right on time. I was waiting with my small suitcase and a cooler containing homemade sweet potato pie. What they couldn't see was the wire taped under my blouse, the GPS tracker in my purse, or the panic button disguised as a medical alert pendant. "Ready for an adventure, Mama?" Deshawn called out. "Ready as I'll ever be, baby." The first 2 hours were almost pleasant. Aaliyah showed me her summer art projects. Isaiah talked about soccer. I played my part perfectly while the wire recorded everything. At 1:18 p.m., we stopped for lunch at a family restaurant in a small town called Copper Ridge. Population 1,847. Once the kids went to the playground, it happened. "Mama," Vanessa said, "we need to talk about the loan." "What about it?" "We've realized that expecting us to pay back $65,000 isn't realistic." "But you agreed to the terms," I said clearly for the wire. Deshawn leaned forward. "We weren't thinking clearly. You took advantage of our situation. I gave you money to save your house. You put a lien on our house, treated us like criminals. Vanessa wasn't unemployed. She got promoted. You bought a Tesla. That's none of your business how we spend our money," Deshawn snapped. $65,000 of mine makes it my business." Vanessa's eyes went cold. "We're not paying you back. We can't, and honestly, we shouldn't have to." "You don't really need that money, Mama," Deshawn said. "You've got your pension, your savings. We're just starting our lives. That money means more to us." I stared at my son. "Is that what you think? That because I'm old, my money matters less? We're saying family should help family without conditions. I asked for the payments you agreed to. And we're telling you that's not happening. We're not paying you back." "Other parents give money as gifts," Vanessa added. "Other parents want their children to succeed. Not by stealing from me." "Stealing?" Deshawn's laugh was harsh. "You think your own son is a thief?" Through the window, I could see Aaliyah on the swings, Isaiah climbing, both happy and unaware. "If you keep pushing this," Deshawn said, standing, "it's going to damage our relationship. The kids are already picking up on the tension, because you've told them lies." "Then prove you love us," Vanessa said. "Drop the loan. Act like a mother instead of a banker." "I can't do that." Then you've made your choice, Deshawn called to the kids. Aaliyah, Isaiah, time to go. 27 minutes later, Deshawn took exit 94 and turned onto Highway 85. There's an amazing viewpoint up here, he said too casually. Agent Williams had warned me this was coming. At 3:07 p.m., we pulled into a rest stop. No other cars, just mountains and a closed visitor center. Isn't this beautiful? Vanessa said. Kids, go explore. Aaliyah and Isaiah ran toward the picnic tables. I stood near the truck, hand near my panic button, confirming GPS signal. That's when I heard the doors slam. Deshawn was in the driver's seat. Engine starting. Kids in back, Aaliyah's face pressed to the window. What are you doing? I called out. Deshawn rolled down his window. Mama, we've decided this isn't working out. What isn't working? Deshawn, the kids are uncomfortable with the tension. We think it's better if you find your own way back to Phoenix. You're abandoning me in the middle of nowhere? There's a visitor center. Someone will help you. You've got your phone. Through the back window, Aaliyah was crying. Isaiah looked terrified. Deshawn, your children are watching. What are you teaching them? We'll explain it to them, Vanessa said. Maybe this will help you understand that family means putting others first. By leaving me stranded? By showing you that actions have consequences, Deshawn said. You chose money over family. Now you live with that choice. Daddy, why are we leaving Grandma Gloria? Aaliyah's muffled voice carried through the glass. We'll explain later, sweetheart. Buckle your seatbelt. Wait, Deshawn, please. We tried, Mama. You refused to be reasonable. This is on you. If you drive away, there will be consequences you cannot imagine. He hesitated for 1 second. Then Vanessa touched his arm, and whatever doubt I'd seen vanished. Goodbye, Mama. When you're ready to be a real grandmother, call us. The truck pulled away. I watched my grandchildren disappear around a curve. Aaliyah's tear-stained face, Isaiah's small hand waving. I stood there for 30 seconds, wind pulling at my clothes, GPS beeping softly, wire recording my breathing. Then I pressed the panic button. Agent Sarah Williams arrived at 3:29 p.m. with Colorado State Police backup. Are you okay? I'm fine. Did you get everything? Every word. What you did took incredible courage. Where are they? We're tracking them to Thornfield. We'll arrest them at their house. The children will be placed with child services temporarily. My sister Patty, Patricia Johnson in Denver. She'll take them. We'll arrange it. But first we need to get you somewhere safe. No, I want to be there when you arrest them. I need to see my grandchildren. Agent Williams studied my face. Okay, but you stay in the vehicle. At 6:52 p.m., I watched from Agent Williams's SUV as Deshawn and Vanessa were arrested on their front lawn. The charges: conspiracy to commit wire fraud across state lines, elder financial abuse, filing false reports, identity theft, participation in organized criminal enterprise. Vanessa screamed. That old woman is crazy. She's making this up. Deshawn stood silent, head down, hands cuffed. When Aaliyah and Isaiah were brought out by a social worker, I couldn't stay in the car. Grandma Gloria, Aaliyah ran to me. Isaiah followed. Both crashed into my arms. Are you okay? Daddy said you walked away. I knelt down. That's not true, baby. I would never walk away from you. They left me, but I'm here now, and you did nothing wrong. Nothing. Do you hear me? Why are the police taking Mommy and Daddy? Isaiah asked. Because they made very bad choices, and there are consequences. But you're going to be okay. You'll stay with Aunt Patty, and I'll visit all the time. We can't stay with you? Not right now, sweetheart. But I'll be right there, every step. As the social worker led them away, Aaliyah looked back. Grandma Gloria, are you sure you're not mad at us? Never, baby. Not for 1 second. 3 weeks later, I received a letter from Deshawn through his public defender. I didn't open it for 2 days. The letter was 3 pages, handwritten. Mama, I don't deserve forgiveness, but you need to know the truth. It started 3 years ago. $500 bets, then 1,000, then 5. Before I knew it, I was $43,000 in debt to dangerous people. They threatened my job, my family, knew where the kids went to school. Vanessa's cousin knew Bobby Thompson. He said Bobby helps families redistribute resources. Made it sound reasonable. He said old people hoard money while their kids struggle. But Bobby takes 60% of everything. That 65,000? I only saw 26. The rest went to his operation. Once you're in, you can't get out. He has photos, recordings, threats. The highway thing was Bobby's idea. He called it the vulnerability intervention. Said it works every time. Old people get scared and cooperate. Mama, watching Aaliyah cry as we drove away, that image haunts me. Isaiah asked why we left you. I looked my 8-year-old son in the eyes and lied to him. The FBI says there are 23 other victims. That blood is on my hands. I'm taking the plea deal. 8 to 10 years. Maybe I can do one right thing. Help bring down the network so this doesn't happen to others. I failed you. I failed Dad's memory. I failed my kids. If you can let Aaliyah and Isaiah know their daddy loved them, even though he failed them, that would mean everything. I'm so sorry. Deshawn. I read it 4 times. Cried twice. By the 3rd time, I felt only sadness. Deep, bone-deep sadness about waste. Wasted potential. Wasted years. I didn't write back. There was nothing left to say. November 3rd, Deshawn pleaded guilty. 9 years federal prison, eligible for parole after 7. December 18th, Vanessa went to trial, was convicted. 18 years, no parole for 12. October 8th, Bobby Thompson arrested with 11 others, facing 20 to 25 years. January 9th, the house sold for $467,000. I recovered $83,217, more than I'd loaned, less than I'd lost. March 23rd, 2025. I'm on Patty's porch in Denver, watching Aaliyah draw while Isaiah practices soccer. I moved here in December, sold my Phoenix apartment at 68, and started over. Patty and I bought a house together at 1224 Willow Creek Drive. 4 bedrooms, big yard, perfect porch. She has the master suite. I have the in-law suite with my own space. But most evenings, we all eat dinner together. Aaliyah's in therapy twice weekly with Dr. Monica Stevens. Last week, she showed me a painting from therapy, a highway, mountains, a woman standing tall with arms outstretched toward the sun. That's you, Grandma Gloria. Dr. Stevens says you're the strongest person I know. Isaiah still has nightmares sometimes. He crawls into bed with Patty, and she holds him and tells him stories about his grandfather Leonard. I've become an elder abuse prevention advocate. I speak at churches, community centers. Last month, I helped a 74-year-old woman recognize her nephew was scamming her. We got her to a lawyer before she lost everything. I testified before Colorado legislature. The bill passed. They're calling it Gloria's Law. I've reconnected with Reverend James and Dorothy Porter, Vanessa's parents. They flew to Denver in February. Aaliyah and Isaiah met their other grandparents for the first time in 2 years. Does it ever stop hurting? Dorothy asked me. I don't know yet, but I think we learned to carry it differently. April 7th, I received a request from Colorado Department of Corrections. Deshawn wanted to see me. I would like to apologize in person and see that she's okay. I understand if she says no. I sat with that request for 3 days. Part of me wanted to see him. Part of me thought he didn't deserve my time. I went, but alone first. April 15th, 2 p.m., Sterling Correctional Facility. Deshawn had lost weight, graying at the temples, looking 55 instead of 43. Prison ages you. We sat across from each other for 3 minutes in silence. I got your letter. I meant every word. I know. Are you okay? When we left you there, the FBI was tracking me. They arrived 20 minutes after you left. His eyes widened. You were wearing a wire the whole trip? Yes. He closed his eyes. Good. I'm glad they were protecting you. Why did you do it? I asked. And I don't want to hear about Bobby or debts. Why did you, my son, look me in the eyes and drive away? Long silence. Because I thought you'd break. Bobby said old people always do. They get scared and cooperate, drop charges, forgive debts. And when I didn't? Then I realized I'd become someone I didn't recognize. I pulled out 2 envelopes. These are letters from Aaliyah and Isaiah. They don't want to see you yet. But their therapist thinks reading letters from you might help. So you'll write them, every week. Tell them you love them. Tell them the truth. Show them that even when we fail, we can take responsibility. His hands shook taking the envelopes. You'd let them have contact? After everything? Not for you. For them. They need to know their father isn't a monster. But you and me? We're not rebuilding. That version of us is gone. You killed it on that highway. I understand. However, I won't keep your children from you if they decide they want contact later. That's their choice. You can write them. When they're ready, maybe they'll write back. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just do better. For them. I stood to leave. Mama? I'm so sorry. I looked at my failed, criminal, still somehow my son. I know you are, baby. I walked away. Didn't look back. May 25th, Memorial Day weekend. We're camping in Rocky Mountain National Park. Me, Patty, Aaliyah, Isaiah, and the Porters. Reclaiming the Colorado mountains. Rewriting Highway 85. Around the campfire, Aaliyah asks, Grandma Gloria, are you happy? I watch the fire dance, feel the mountain air. I'm not happy about what happened. Not happy your daddy's in prison. Not happy about that highway. But I am grateful for what I have now. You two, Aunt Patty, the Porters, this life we're building, the work I'm doing. All of it came from walking through fire. Like a phoenix, Aaliyah says softly. Like a phoenix. Patty raises her mug. To the Carter Johnson Porter clan, the family we chose. We all raise our mugs. That night in my sleeping bag, I think about everything. The phone call, the wire transfer, the highway, the FBI, the arrests, the letters. They thought they broke me on Highway 85. But on that highway, I found what I'd lost years ago. My power, my voice, my worth. I'm 68 years old and I'm just getting started. This is my promised land. Not perfect, not without scars, but mine. And that's enough. Gloria Jean Carter. Advocacy work throughout Colorado and Arizona. Helped 47 elderly individuals report abuse. Memoir Highway to Freedom Publishing Fall 2025 precedes fun prevention programs. Gardens, Plays Bridge, Sunday dinners with family every week. Aaliyah Marie Carter, 13, Denver Arts Academy, won first place Colorado Youth Art Competition with Still Standing, writes Father Monthly, visits twice yearly with therapist. Isaiah James Carter, 9, Colorado Regional Select Soccer Team, Honor Roll, Close Friends. Writes father occasionally about soccer and school. Patricia Patty Johnson, Legal Guardian, Expanded Catering Business. Co-wrote Cooking for Your Chosen Family, Regional Bestseller. Deshaun Marcus Carter, Sterling Correctional, Completed Addiction Treatment, Leads Inmate Support Group. Perfect Conduct, May Get Early Parole 2029. Writes weekly letters to children. Vanessa Michelle Carter, Denver Women's Correctional. Minimal Contact, Limited Remorse. Parole Eligible 2035. Robert Bobby Thompson, 22 years federal prison, May 2025. Network dismantled. 47 victims received partial restitution totaling $1.2 million. Reverend James and Dorothy Porter, reunited with grandchildren, visit Denver Monthly. Co-founded Black Elders Financial Protection Coalition with Gloria. Gloria's Law. Passed Colorado March 2025, strengthening elder protections. Similar bills under consideration in Arizona, New Mexico, Utah.